Ladies and gentlemen, each of us was born with purpose in the heart of God. From the moment you took your first breath, heaven had already marked your life with intention and design. But for some of us, there were signs, clear and undeniable markers from our childhood that revealed we were chosen for a higher calling. Let me share 5 such signs with you today. As a child, there were moments when you felt something beyond the ordinary, a profound connection to a presence you couldn't quite explain, but it felt real and powerful. You may have found yourself sitting quietly in a room, looking out at the world with a sense that there was more to life than what you could see with your eyes. While other children were busy with games and distractions, you often experienced a pull towards stillness, reflection, or even prayer. It wasn't that you understood everything about spirituality or God at that young age, but there was an undeniable awareness within you, a sense that you were not alone. This wasn't simply a child's imagination, it was the touch of the divine, stirring something within you that many others around you couldn't perceive. You may recall times when you felt overwhelmed with emotions you couldn't quite name, moments when you sensed the beauty of creation or the pain of others in a way that seemed deeper than what most children would notice. Perhaps you saw a sunset and felt more than just its visual beauty, you felt a stirring in your heart, as if it carried a message directly from heaven. There may have been moments when you heard a kind word or a comforting melody, and something inside you responded with tears or an unshakable peace. It was as though your spirit was attuned to something greater, something eternal. That sensitivity was not accidental. It was evidence that God was already working in you, shaping your heart to be receptive to His voice and His presence. This awareness wasn't limited to quiet moments of reflection. You may have noticed that even in places of worship, your heart was more tender and your spirit more open than others your age. While some children saw church as just another routine, you found yourself captivated by the words spoken, the songs sung, or the atmosphere itself. Even if you didn't fully understand the teachings or the depth of Scripture, something inside of you resonated. You weren't just hearing, you were experiencing. You weren't just present, you were connected. God's presence had a way of touching you uniquely, drawing your spirit closer to Him, even before you could fully articulate what was happening. It wasn't uncommon for you to sense things that others couldn't. Perhaps you walked into a room and felt a heaviness or a peace that seemed beyond explanation. You may have noticed how certain moments felt sacred, like when a family member prayed, or when a situation resolved in a way that felt divinely orchestrated. These weren't coincidences, they were gentle whispers from God, revealing Himself to you in ways your young heart could understand. It was as though He was planting seeds of faith and awareness, preparing you for a future where those moments would become the foundation of a deep and abiding relationship with Him. This sensitivity sometimes made you different from your peers. While other children were carefree and unbothered, you often found yourself reflecting on deeper things. You may have asked questions that others brushed off, like, who made all this? Or why do we pray? These weren't just innocent musings, they were the stirrings of a soul that was already reaching for the Creator. You may have even experienced moments of conviction, times when you felt a sense of right and wrong that went beyond the rules adults taught you. It was as though an inner compass was already guiding you, pointing you toward God's truth. For some, this sensitivity came with challenges. You might have felt isolated or misunderstood because you saw the world differently. While other children were content with surface-level joys, you craved something deeper. Perhaps you found yourself drawn to helping others, feeling their pain as if it were your own. This level of empathy wasn't just a personality trait, it was part of your spiritual sensitivity. God was allowing you to see the world through His eyes, even in small glimpses, so that your heart would always remain tender and responsive to His calling. There may have also been times when this awareness felt overwhelming. Perhaps you struggled to reconcile the beauty of God's presence with the brokenness you saw around you. As a child, you might not have had the words or understanding to make sense of these feelings, but they were significant. They were the early signs of a deeper connection, a spiritual maturity that would one day equip you to stand firm in your faith and guide others toward the light. This connection to the divine often showed up in unexpected ways. You might have had dreams that felt more real than life, moments where you sensed guidance or comfort that seemed to come out of nowhere. These experiences were not random. They were the fingerprints of God on your life, gently revealing Himself to you. Even in the innocence of childhood, He was making Himself known, showing you that He had chosen you for something greater. This unusual sensitivity wasn't just about feeling, it was about responding. As a child, you may not have realized it, but those moments were shaping your heart, teaching you to recognize God's presence and listen to His voice. That early connection would become the foundation for your faith, your purpose, and your ability to walk in the calling He placed on your life. Those feelings, those moments, and those unexplainable stirrings were God's way of marking you as His own. From a young age, you may have felt as though the weight of the world rested on your small shoulders. While other children seemed to glide through life with ease, your journey was marked by challenges that felt heavy and often unfair. Perhaps you faced circumstances that seemed overwhelming for someone your age, whether it was the loss of a loved one, financial hardships in your family, or being misunderstood and isolated by your peers. These trials were not random, they were purposeful. They were tools in the hands of God, shaping you and preparing you for a life that would require strength, faith, and resilience. When you think back, it might feel as though those moments of struggle were too much for a child to bear. You might have wondered why others around you seemed to live carefree, while your path was strewn with difficulties. But these challenges were not signs of neglect, they were signs of preparation. God does not place burdens upon those He has not equipped to bear them. Instead, He uses those very burdens to refine us, to strengthen us, and to shape us into the people we are called to be. As a child, you may not have understood why these things were happening, but those challenges were teaching you lessons that no classroom could ever offer. Perhaps you were the one in your family who had to grow up quickly, taking on responsibilities that were far beyond your years. Maybe you were the child who comforted others, even when your own heart was breaking. In those moments, you learned the value of perseverance, the power of compassion, and the importance of relying on something greater than yourself. Those challenges were shaping you not only for your own growth, but also to equip you to lead, to inspire, and to serve others. For some, these difficulties came in the form of being misunderstood or rejected. You may have felt out of place, as though you didn't quite belong, even in your own family or community. Perhaps your dreams, ideas, or personality seemed too big for those around you to understand. While this isolation may have been painful, it was also a sign that God was setting you apart. He was removing distractions, carving out space for you to seek Him, and preparing you for a calling that would require you to stand out from the crowd. Often those who are chosen by God must first walk a lonely road so that their dependence on Him becomes unshakable. Challenges also have a way of exposing what is inside of us. When you were faced with trials as a child, you may have discovered a strength and resilience you didn't know you had. Perhaps you found yourself praying when others gave up or believing when others doubted. These were not just natural responses, they were the result of God working within you, showing you that His power is made perfect in weakness. Every difficulty you faced was a reminder that you were never truly alone. Even in the darkest moments, God's hand was guiding you, shaping you, and building a foundation of faith that would carry you through the rest of your life. These unique challenges were also a way of teaching you empathy and compassion. Having experienced pain and hardship yourself, you developed a heart that could understand and care for others in their struggles. You were being prepared to be a source of strength and encouragement, someone who could speak life into the hearts of those who feel defeated. Your own trials became a testimony, a living example of how God can take what was meant for harm and turn it into something beautiful and purposeful. It is important to remember that the trials you faced as a child were never meant to define you as a victim. Instead, they were meant to refine you as a victor. God was using those moments to prepare you for a future that required resilience and a faith that would not waver in the face of adversity. The challenges you endured were evidence that you were being set apart, chosen for a greater purpose. While others may have lived in ease, your difficulties were the training ground for greatness. You may not have realized it at the time, but every trial was a part of God's plan to develop you into the person He created you to be. He was teaching you how to trust Him in the midst of uncertainty, how to hold on to hope when everything around you seemed to be falling apart, and how to walk in faith even when the path ahead wasn't clear. Those unique challenges were not a sign of abandonment, they were a sign of God's care and intention for your life. Through them, He was preparing you for a calling that would require courage, perseverance, and unwavering trust in His plan. As a child, there was something about you that naturally drew others to your presence. Whether you realized it or not, you often found yourself in positions where your voice carried weight and your actions inspired those around you. While many children were content to follow, you instinctively felt the pull to lead. It wasn't about power or recognition, it was about purpose. There was something inside of you that wanted to bring clarity where there was confusion, to offer encouragement when others felt discouraged, and to guide those who seemed lost. This natural desire to lead and inspire was not just a personality trait, it was a sign of the calling God placed on your life. You may remember moments when your peers sought you out for advice or looked to you for direction. Even in simple childhood games, you often found yourself taking charge, not because you demanded it, but because others trusted your instincts. Perhaps you noticed that when you spoke, people listened. When you acted, others followed. There was an invisible authority about you that others respected, even if they couldn't explain why. This wasn't something you worked for or tried to achieve, it was a gift, a mark of being chosen by God for a life of influence and impact. This desire to lead often came with a sense of responsibility that felt heavier than what others seemed to carry. While some children were carefree and uninhibited, you may have felt a weight in your spirit, a sense that your words and actions mattered, that you were accountable not just for yourself but also for those around you. This wasn't a burden meant to overwhelm you, it was a sign that God was already shaping you into someone who could guide others with wisdom and compassion. He was preparing your heart to care for people, to see their needs, and to take initiative when others might hesitate. There may have been times when you felt compelled to stand up for what was right, even if it meant standing alone. Perhaps you spoke out when you saw someone being treated unfairly, or you stepped in to help when others ignored a need. These moments were not just acts of kindness, they were glimpses of the leadership God was developing in you. He was teaching you to be courageous, to trust your instincts, and to follow the conviction He placed in your heart. Even as a child, you were being prepared to be a voice of hope and a source of strength for others. This natural inclination to lead often extended beyond words. You inspired others through your actions, your attitude, and your determination. Perhaps you were the one who encouraged your friends to keep trying when they wanted to give up, or the one who brought peace to a tense situation with your calm and thoughtful approach. People were drawn to your ability to see the bigger picture, to find solutions, and to bring people together. These qualities were not just random traits, they were gifts from God, given to you for the purpose of guiding others toward Him. You may have also noticed that this desire to lead came with challenges. Leadership is never without its costs, and even as a child, you might have faced moments of doubt or resistance. Perhaps others misunderstood your intentions or resented your influence. There may have been times when you questioned whether you were capable of carrying the weight of leadership. But even in those moments, God was at work, teaching you to rely on Him rather than your own strength. He was reminding you that true leadership is not about control or recognition, but about service, humility, and obedience to His will. One of the most profound aspects of this desire to lead and inspire was your ability to see potential in others. Even as a child, you may have found joy in encouraging your friends, helping them see their strengths and pushing them toward their goals. This wasn't just a kind heart at work, it was a reflection of God's heart within you. He was using you to speak life into others, to build them up, and to remind them of their worth and purpose. Your leadership wasn't about elevating yourself, it was about lifting others and pointing them towards something greater. This natural leadership was also a sign of God's trust in you. He doesn't call just anyone to lead, He calls those He has equipped. Even as a child, He saw in you the potential to inspire, to guide, and to make a difference in the lives of others. He was planting seeds of vision and purpose in your heart, knowing that one day those seeds would grow into a calling that would impact countless lives. As you look back on those moments of leadership and inspiration, recognize them for what they were: not random occurrences, but divine markers of the path God set before you. He was preparing you even then to be a light in the darkness, a voice of hope, and a guide for those who need direction. Your desire to lead and inspire was never just about you. It was always about the greater purpose He has for your life. From an early age, you carried a feeling deep within that you were meant for something significant, something beyond the ordinary. This sense of purpose wasn't something you learned or borrowed from others. It was something planted in you, a divine whisper that resided in the core of your being. Even when you couldn't put it into words, this inner knowing guided your thoughts, shaped your dreams, and influenced your decisions. While other children might have been content to live moment by moment, you often found yourself pondering deeper questions. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? Even as a child, you sensed there was a reason for your existence that extended beyond yourself. This unexplainable sense of purpose may have shown up in subtle ways. Perhaps you felt drawn to help others, even in simple acts of kindness that seemed instinctual. Maybe you were curious about the world, eager to learn and explore, as though you were searching for clues to a larger picture. There was a restlessness in your spirit, not a dissatisfaction with life, but a longing for clarity about the role you were meant to play. Even when life seemed ordinary on the surface, deep down you knew there was more. This wasn't a fleeting feeling, it was a persistent reminder that your life carried significance. At times, this sense of purpose may have set you apart from others. While some focused on fitting in or following trends, you often felt compelled to march to the beat of a different drum. You might not have understood why you didn't always fit into the mold, but that sense of being different was not a flaw, it was a mark of being chosen. God was preparing you for a unique mission, and that preparation often requires a separation from the norm. You weren't called to be like everyone else because your purpose was not like anyone else's. This feeling of being set apart often brought with it a hunger for meaning. You may have found yourself drawn to stories, teachings, or moments that resonated with something deeper inside of you. Perhaps you were captivated by tales of courage, faith, and perseverance, or inspired by those who made a difference in the world. These weren't just passing interests, they were reflections of the purpose God was stirring in your heart. Even as a child, you were being drawn toward the kind of life that aligns with His plans, one of impact, influence, and fulfillment. But carrying a sense of purpose isn't always easy. There were likely moments when the weight of it felt overwhelming, especially when you didn't know exactly what it meant or how to act on it. Perhaps you experienced frustration, wondering why you felt this way while others seemed so content with simpler pursuits. Maybe you doubted yourself, questioning whether you were imagining things or if you were truly meant for something greater. These moments of doubt were not failures, they were opportunities to lean on God, to seek His guidance, and to trust His timing. This unexplainable sense of purpose also gave you resilience. Even as a child, you may have noticed that you were able to endure challenges with a quiet determination. When others gave up, you pressed on. When life was difficult, you found strength in the knowledge that there was more to your story. This wasn't because you were stronger or better than anyone else, it was because you were anchored by the belief that your life had meaning. God was using that sense of purpose to guide you through trials, shaping your character and deepening your faith. It's likely that this sense of purpose also made you more reflective. While others were content to go through the motions, you often found yourself seeking moments of solitude, times when you could think, dream, and connect with something greater. In those quiet moments, God was speaking to you not in loud, dramatic ways, but in gentle whispers that reminded you of His presence and His plans. Even when you didn't fully understand, He was planting seeds of destiny in your heart, seeds that would grow and bear fruit in His perfect timing. Over time, this sense of purpose became a compass for your life. It may not have given you all the answers, but it pointed you in the right direction, urging you to seek out opportunities to grow, serve, and make a difference. It kept you grounded when distractions threatened to pull you off course and gave you hope when the road ahead seemed uncertain. This wasn't just a feeling, it was evidence of God's hand on your life, guiding you toward the mission He created you to fulfill. Looking back, you can see how this sense of purpose has been a constant thread running through your life, even in moments of doubt or confusion. It has been a reminder that you are not here by accident, that your life is part of a larger plan designed by the Creator Himself. Though the specifics of your mission may still be unfolding, the very fact that you feel this sense of purpose is proof that you were chosen. It's a gift, a calling, and a sacred trust, one that continues to shape you and lead you closer to the destiny God has prepared for you. From a young age, you were no stranger to moments that defied explanation. While others may have dismissed such experiences as coincidence or imagination, for you, they were vivid, undeniable, and often life-changing. These early encounters with the supernatural were not random occurrences, they were divine moments, designed to awaken your spirit and affirm that God had His hand upon your life. Perhaps you remember having dreams that felt so real they lingered with you long after you awoke. These were not ordinary dreams, they carried meaning and stirred something deep within you. You might have seen images of light, heard voices of comfort, or experienced a sense of peace that words couldn't describe. Some dreams may have even foretold events that later unfolded in ways that left you in awe. These were not mere products of a child's imagination, they were glimpses of the divine, signs that God was revealing Himself to you in a way that your young heart could understand. You may also recall moments of sensing a presence that was both powerful and gentle. At times it may have felt as though you were not alone, even in the quiet of your room or in moments of solitude. Perhaps you heard whispers of assurance when you were afraid, or you felt an unexplainable warmth and comfort during difficult times. These encounters were not accidental, they were evidence of God's nearness, reminders that He was watching over you, guiding and protecting you even when you didn't fully grasp the significance of what was happening. For some, these supernatural experiences came in the form of visions or profound insights. As a child, you may have seen things that others couldn't or understood truths that seemed beyond your years. It might have been a sense of knowing that something would happen before it did, or an ability to discern what others were feeling without them saying a word. These moments were not about your own abilities, but about the Spirit of God working through you, giving you glimpses of His wisdom and plans. They were subtle yet powerful reminders that you were connected to something far greater than yourself. These early encounters often left a lasting impression on your faith. While other children might have questioned the existence of God, you carried a deep conviction that He was real, because you had experienced Him in ways that were personal and undeniable. Even when you couldn't fully articulate what you had seen or felt, those moments became anchors for your belief, a foundation that would support you through the trials and challenges of life. They reminded you that God was not a distant figure but an active presence in your story. At times, these experiences may have felt overwhelming or even confusing. As a child, it's natural to wonder why you were having these encounters or what they meant. Perhaps you kept them to yourself, unsure if others would understand or believe you. But even in the midst of uncertainty, those moments carried a sense of peace and assurance, as though God was whispering, "I am with you." They were a reminder that you were never alone, no matter what circumstances you faced. These encounters often sparked a curiosity about spiritual matters, drawing you closer to God and igniting a hunger to understand Him more. You may have found yourself drawn to prayer, scripture, or moments of quiet reflection, eager to connect with the One who had revealed Himself to you. This hunger was not a coincidence, it was God's way of drawing you into a deeper relationship with Him, preparing you for the purpose He had set before you. You may have also noticed that these experiences shaped your perspective on life. While others focused on the material and the visible, you were aware of a reality that went beyond what could be seen. You understood that there was more to life than what met the eye, that the spiritual world was just as real as the physical. This awareness gave you a sense of depth and insight that set you apart, even as a child. It allowed you to approach life with faith, hope, and a sense of wonder, knowing that God was always at work, even in ways that weren't immediately obvious. Over time, these early encounters became a source of strength. When you faced challenges or moments of doubt, you could look back on those experiences and remember that God had been with you all along. They were a reminder of His faithfulness and a testament to His love for you. Even when life felt uncertain, those encounters gave you the confidence to trust in His plans, knowing that the same God who revealed Himself to you as a child was still guiding your steps. These supernatural experiences were not just fleeting moments, they were divine markers of your identity as someone chosen by God. They were His way of saying, "You are mine and I have great things in store for you." Even now, as you reflect on those moments, let them remind you of His presence and His purpose for your life. They are a testament to the fact that God has been with you from the very beginning, shaping your heart, deepening your faith, and preparing you for the extraordinary calling He has placed on your life. As we reflect on these signs, each a divine thread woven into the tapestry of your life, remember this: none of them are random. They are evidence of God's intentional design, His calling upon you, and His preparation for the purpose He has uniquely set before you. The sensitivity to spiritual matters, the challenges that shaped your character, the desire to lead and inspire, the unshakable sense of purpose, and those early encounters with the supernatural, these are not coincidences, but confirmations that you are chosen. God doesn't make mistakes, and He doesn't waste moments. Every experience, every stirring in your heart, and every encounter with the divine is a part of His plan to mold you into someone who reflects His glory and fulfills His mission. So let these signs embolden you. Step confidently into your calling, knowing that the God who started this good work in you will be faithful to complete it. You are not ordinary, you are set apart, anointed, and destined for greatness. Trust Him, walk in His purpose, and live a life that testifies to the fact that you were chosen.